Well, I've got a winner. You know how I know I've got a winner? You may not know I've got a winner, but I know I've got a winner. And I know I've got a winner because, well, here's my logic. You always hear about these success cases that come out of nowhere. It's like, well, despite their overcoming, the odds of poverty and whatnot. And I'll tell you something. I've made a very intentional decision to maintain a very careful balance between my working hours on this script and everything else in my life. And I've purposefully risked my survival on this screenplay. I've been doing it over and over and over again for the last 10 years. Now, you don't do something like that, first of all, unless you know you have a winner. There are a lot of other jobs I could be doing, and I know how this is going to sound, but I stand behind it in advance. Of course, we live in a wicked and perverse generation. Maybe that's not obvious to you. It's obvious to me. It's obvious to me because most of the girls who grow up today, they're not marriageable. You have to look very, very hard to find a good girl, and you have to look very hard to find a good girl because most girls have been sold this lie that they'll be the power role, the X company is gonna fulfill them, etc. And they're sold this lie by largely familially unsuccessful people. I'm not going to mention any names here, but usually those are the people who sell this feminist lie, or those who are failures, the failures as feminine failures, and they push this most. Now, of course, if we're to truly take responsibility as men, but I'm getting on a tangent. The point is, I know I have a winning script, and I have a winning script because I've thoroughly thought this through. Hollywood is very cerebral. I know I have a winner because one of the benefits of living the lifestyle I lead is that I run into people and I talk to people I wouldn't otherwise have a reason to talk to. I was talking to a police officer for the better part of an hour today. Why? Because I got a wonderful $75 parking ticket from the city of Gloucester, because I had been displaced from the place where I normally park. In any event, see, some of the most traditionally and naturally masculine people are police officers who actually, who aren't soldiers, and of course they're a breed of their own. Soldiers, Marines, Navy SEALs. They're the people who put their lives on the line for everyone else's safety. And let us never forget that, because there are people who theorize. And in some strange way, honestly, I'm doing the same thing. I'm putting my life on the line in the very best way I know how. And make no difference, I've endured very frigid temperatures, all as a result of things I've done to get this project done. But this isn't about me, this is about the story, and it always has been. And the story here is one that resonates with real people. It may not resonate with elite cerebral theorists who don't put skin in the game on a regular basis. A police officer I spoke to, I was explaining everything, what led to the parking ticket, why I do what I do. He summed up the problem better than I could in the moment, and he said, well, he's getting to be in his 50s. If everyone raised up to a certain age, about 30, everyone younger than 30, basically, everyone who's not younger than 30 was raised a certain way. You played outside when you were a kid, and you kind of knew the people in your neighborhood, and all of that has been fragmented. Why? Well, it's not, the reason why is none less than the technology that you're holding in your hand right now. It's not that the technology is necessarily evil, but again, I say necessarily with a good deal of reservation, because it may very well be. And I think we need to be very humble when dealing with media technology, because it's that humility toward the technology that allows us to use it morally. It's the lesson of Jurassic Park, right? Don't want the Pirates of the Caribbean eating the people. But anyway, the police officer, he recognized this problem of androgyny, the problem that pastors in America, again, they're stuck in a fake news media world because they've been reverse evangelized by devices like these. They were just a little less sophisticated. We call them televisions or idiot boxes or devil's boxes if you're a smarter pastor from about 50 years ago. Thus, women today, millennial girls, have been sold a lie that they'll be happy if they forego childbearing for about 10 years in favor of the power position. Ever see the pilot of Columbo? It's the most brilliant show that was ever on television, I swear. Anyhow, that's a tangent, but that's related. And anyway, this police officer's wife was a, and this is a real police officer. It's not like Columbo. He does have a wife. She works in a fertility clinic. And he says, you got these women coming in when they're 35, and they're using these really desperate technological measures to try to do what required a miracle for Sarah and Abraham back in the day. The church has zero respect for the natural law or God's plan, which is why you have secular gurus like Jordan Peterson so articulately and sensitively explaining the problem. A good work of art is useful to the person who consumes it, okay? This is an incredibly useful work of art. And part of that usefulness in this age, part of the storytelling methodology is efficiency. It needs to be visually efficient. So there's not a lot of room for cerebral, well-articulated debates because millennials aren't that bright. I know because I am one. I'm an older millennial. My grandfather graduated from high school, smarter than most of the people who I graduated college with, and a good many others. The point is, this isn't going to be a successful work because I overcame the odds of being, impoverished and what else. Honestly, I don't even consider it poverty, but a lot of you would. I've been able to maintain a working relationship with people that are, they're too low for a lot of you to deal with. And honestly, if I had my pick, I guess I wouldn't necessarily associate with a lot of them myself. However, if that wasn't, God's plan was such that I'd maybe live this lifestyle so that I would find in them the confirmation and the confirmation of truth that I guess most of you are simply too high-minded to in your I don't know, I suppose worship of Hollywood trends and trying to be Hollywood, that you can't find that useful tool to your audience. And I've developed a very useful tool. It is a very real solution to a very real problem facing society. And that's what you get in this script that I've toiled for 10 years on, and you don't find in the Hollywood production line. I'm closer than ever. I'm going to get there. And here's really what it is. I mean, you see jabs at social media all the time. In pop culture and comedies, but no one's analyzed just how detrimental it actually is. And this is where my script, I think it has a stronger foundation than, well, really, than most pastors do theologically. But then we go a step further than the pastors. We actually create a strong narrative that supports, the whole the script. So this is it's built on a very strong theological, philosophical, sociological, psychological foundation. Joanne Flannery said that, or wrote or said that, if I could explain it in a summary, then I wouldn't have written a book. And this is not a pitch. This is art. This is not a pitch for the proverbial Hollywood production line. And that's what Hollywood is today. Produces movies, television shows like Henry Ford produced Model Ts. Each the same, minor variations here and there, which the script consultants, well, anyhow. I know I have a winner. Because I've talked to many millennials. I understand the problems that they face, and so I know my audience better than anyone else. And that's how I know I have a winner in this script. And it may not be polished yet, like many of you can polish it, but it's going to succeed, and it's going to succeed. It already has begun to succeed in many respects, but it's going to succeed on a very large scale, in part because I know my audience better. First of all, because I am a millennial. I'm an older millennial, so I have one foot in both, and I knew the greatest generation personally, so I have one foot in both generations, and plus I have a larger historical context, I think, than many. It's built on a strong academic theory. It's built on a strong theological and philosophical, pardon me, not enough coffee, I guess, philosophical theory. It's also built in terms of the story itself on a very strong media theory. So we don't just take jabs at social media. What it really is it's a journey into the psychological pathology which makes children in schools today shoot each other. It didn't happen 60 years ago. This isn't the mere punchline of the, that's grown to be a cliche of the couple out on a date that both of them are staring at their cell phones, not talking to one another in the restaurant. No, this delves into the stormy subtext of the very thing that is ripping apart the fabric of the American family, of the church, of society, which pastors can't even recognize because they only have the benefit of one generational outlook. They think the millennials are crazy for spending too much time on the phone, and millennials think their parents and their grandparents are outmoded, like some old outdated piece of software, or maybe a used car to be junked and thrown away. And this drama called Fall delves into the stormy subtext of the implications that none of us want to face about that world. And I know I touched a nerve. I know when I talk to normal people who are outside Hollywood, like when Donald Trump talks to Wisconsin or Milwaukee, or when Sarah Palin talks to Alaska. I know that there's a nerve that's A, not being struck, and B, more importantly, not being developed appropriately. And it comes from 10 years of studying the art of screenplay from greats like Blake Snyder. It's a very primal plot. It's a very succinct plot. And because it's so marvelously efficient, when you look at it on paper, a lot of you may not understand it. But to overlook it would be a great mistake, because what you'll end up doing is you'll end up subconsciously trying to repurpose it to reach a foregone conclusion, which meets with the broken hermeneutical principles that your pastors have been banging into your minds for the last 30 years, or pop Christendom, maybe the Christian newspapers, or the online Christian publications, Christianity Today, whatever pop Christian magazine that you read that's stuck in a broken paradigm, which isn't reaching millennials and isn't helping their parents or grandparents that much, for that matter, either. This is a meticulously thought out solution, and one that's been meticulously thought out for good purposes, at the possible peril of the life of yours truly, as I follow the example of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. In any event, I'd bid you take another look at the draft, as rough as it may be, and maybe don't, at least in the case of Barbara and Nicholas, maybe don't let personal umbrage or being triggered, by certain elements of it get in the way of recognizing its brilliance. And when I say brilliance, I don't mean that I am a particularly brilliant person because all my talent is on loan from God. But what that talent really is it's the culmination of a lot of hard work studying. What's the cultural problem? How do I develop a tool that will help millennials to better understand themselves and thus better understand God and what our sense of responsibility is in this short time that we're here? Do you want to do something meaningful with your life, or you just want to put on a good show? If you want to do more than that, well, I'm the guy to help you do it. It's Miami.